So, was what the Master told me true?
Yes.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
How much was lost? How many lives? How many people have I been? Dozens? Hundreds? Thousands?
Look upon my work and despair.
Nerdrotic.com.
Admittedly, it's a bit perplexing to be sitting here talking about The Timeless Children, something that should have never been made, and even after it was made, somebody should have had the good sense of retconning it out of existence, but instead, we got the inevitable double down. I was going to wait until I did my full Doctor Who Flux season review, which I'm still going to do next week, but I had to talk about this now because in the penultimate episode, Chris Chibnall twisted the knife. It's not like we haven't seen this with another franchise like Star Wars. The Timeless Children was The Last Jedi. The Flux is The Rise of Skywalker. And at this point, I'm rooting for the Flux, but not to bury the lead here. Yes, it is true. They doubled down on the Timeless Children storyline. They confirmed that the Doctor is not from Gallifrey and that the Doctor has possibly thousands, maybe millions of lives that we don't know about. And yes, we knew a lot of this from the Timeless Children, but it didn't make hearing confirmation of all of this and then adding on to it feel any better. And I guess I'm not alone in feeling pissed off all over again. While the Access media seem to generally have problems with the episode, they're still going to completely ignore that the fandom is enraged about this, and the only press outlet that I could find that even acknowledges this is Birmingham Live, which just so happened to feature one of my tweets. BBC Doctor Who causes stir with divisive episode and nobody can agree on Twitter. The writer began to trend along with the Time Lord actress Jodie Whittaker. You forgot to mention she's the first female Doctor as the penultimate episode of Flux, that Flux Doctor Who, ended. BBC Doctor Who has divided fans. No, it's decimated its fandom, and nobody can seem to agree after the polarizing episode on Sunday night. Some fans reckon it was some of Chris Chibnall's finest work as a showrunner, but others were not as kind on Twitter. Again, I'm going to go over the full season in detail in my review sometime next week. It's going to take some time because this is mystery box garbage at its finest, but there's no accounting for taste. You have to admire the sheer balls on Chibnall. Well, if he has balls, I'm betting they're sheared to tackle both Doctor Who's origin story and unit dating all in one episode. Don't confuse balls with hackery. Beth excitedly shared, I know this probably wasn't done on purpose, but it really feels like Chibnall is setting up a Doctor Who multiverse for the next showrunner. Oh, you think so, Beth? What made you think that when Tainting said there was multiverses? It's not to say that this show doesn't have a very minute core audience, and this is it. Chris Chibnall coming through with the anti-colonialism message in full force. A socialist king. Doctor Who Flux Claudia Boleyn. Let's see, Chris Chibnall's net worth is about £10 million. Eat the rich, buddy. Matthew wrote the past 3 series have been the worst Doctor Who series in history. There has only been 2 good episodes. No, there hasn't been any good episodes. From this Doctor, those 2 episodes were not written by Chibnall. Kevin fumed. Every time there was a regeneration, there was some sacrifice. Instead, Chris Chibnall has made it now that the Doctor has infinite lives. And then they share my tweet where I basically say, F Chibnall and F the BBC, because every past Doctor has been tainted. So how badly did this double down go down? Well, pretty bad, if not worse. At least in that 5-minute voiceover montage of Doctor Who destruction in the Timeless Children, we had in the back of our head that the Master could have been lying. Well, it turns out he wasn't.
Was what the Master told me true?
Yes.
No! God, please, no! No!
And I know it's tough to hear this again. William Hartnell, according to the BBC, is no longer the first Doctor, although he'll always be the first Doctor in my head. He is now a little abandoned black girl who was left at a monument below a portal, and I'm not even going to talk about what kind of message that sends.
I'm the one who found you. I brought you to Gallifrey and raised you.
But wait, it gets so much worse.
You judge me for giving you the journey of your lifetime.
I gave you a life.
Everything you are is because of me.
It turns out the Doctor is no longer the rebel Time Lord who was just running from Gallifrey. The Doctor was running from division. So the Doctor is no longer from Gallifrey. Everything the Doctor is, he got from Tainting. Everything that happened in the universe was coordinated and manipulated by the division. And
how much was lost? How many lives? How many people have I been? Dozens? Hundreds? Thousands?
And the other thing that's a bit perplexing, but I do have an answer for you later, is the BBC and the Access media going on like this show is actually popular. Doctor Who Flux Episode 5 confirmed a game-changing fan theory. Whovians were right all along. Yeah, the 5 who gave a shit. And we'll get back to that, but just a quick reminder of how much the BBC, Chris Chibnall, and the Access media are in denial about this show. This is the latest Rotten Tomatoes audience score. 38%. It's the highest score of the first female Doctor played by Jodie Whittaker, who we will lovingly call Dr. Karen's era. Congratulations. And as my good friend and co-host on Friday Night Tights, Az from Heel vs. Babyface, reported that the ratings for this season have been some of the lowest in New Who history and Who history. Now, there was a slight uptick to an abysmal 3.82 million viewers, which had everything to do with the nostalgia bait Weeping Angels. Now, we're still waiting on the American ratings, but last week were not pretty. 318,000 people watched it live over 2 networks, and it had a .06 18 to 49 demo. Now, I just want to point out that even in the horrific season 10 from Capaldi, the average 18 to 49 demo was .28. And season 10 averaged 881,000 viewers. Now, the record in the U.S. was the 50th anniversary, 3.6 million. Now we're going to go back to the very excited Access media because remember, Chris Chibnall's whole intention was to tell new stories from new perspectives. In between all of the other parallel storylines, our good doctor learns that the division began on Gallifrey to ensure the timeline's safety. The idea was that operatives from across time and space could guide and shape events as they saw fit, which was in direct contravention to Gallifreyan law, which is now meaningless, just like the almighty Time Lord civilization, which was just manipulated by the division. If you want to tell new stories, tell new stories, but this isn't it. This is subversion. This is vandalization. The Doctor being born on Gallifrey is important. Imagine with Superman if Jor-El and Lara had found Kal-El on another planet and he was just the last adopted son of Krypton. It doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? Chris Chibnall took a hammer to the past, all while raising a middle finger to the fandom. I mean, they changed the Doctor's origin so it could be an allegory for cultural appropriation. Survivors of the Flux ended up being just as damaging as The Timeless Children and as poorly written. You gotta hand it to Chibnall. He's really good at channeling his inner fanfic writing 14-year-old girl who just got off her Adderall. That's why it's not surprising that he completely forgot to mention the character that the previous episode was centered around, Claire. Yeah, remember Claire? He didn't. I do think they're setting up what will be the equivalent of a reverse Thanos snap, but that's only to get rid of the Flux. We already have gotten answers to things we never wanted an answer to, and I think the damage to this show is irreversible. It would take a miracle for Russell T. Davies to fix this. Oh, sure, it's possible. Creative decisions get reversed all the time, but the first female Doctor played by Jodie Whittaker, who we will lovingly call Dr. Karen, and the Timeless Children was not a creative decision. It was an ideological decision. And in the one case where we saw the reversal of an ideological decision with Ghostbusters, while it was well received, it wasn't a runaway hit, and I think that is partially due to its predecessor. Get woke, go broke. And again, for all the people who say Doctor Who has always been political,
one old hand from Gallifrey cautions that the Doctor and politics don't mix.
If you're concentrating on putting over a political message rather than on doing a really good show, I think there is a danger, maybe you can do both, but it would be hellish difficult. And I think there's maybe a danger that the show wouldn't be as good as it could or should be, because you're not looking at the right aims.
There's only one reason I can think of as to why the powers that be at the BBC, including Chibnall, would go ahead and double down on something as clearly unpopular as the Timeless Children. Malice. Their fragile little egos couldn't accept that we were right and they were wrong. They can't accept that their little experiment with the first female Doctor played by Jodie Whittaker, who we will lovingly call Dr. Karen, failed.
To only see TV shows or films from one very specific demographic is... it's got old.
Isn't it strange how every established franchise, like Doctor Who, that gets radically changed or subverted to represent new voices and new perspectives gets watched by fewer people? It's almost like it was accessible all along. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
It could have been a lot better. It could have been slightly better written. Not only that, but it was also very cliched. It was very routine, running up and down corridors and silly monsters. And very traditional sort of thing that people would expect Doctor Who to fall into. But I still felt that that story was fairly boring.
You know, I've come across a lot of psychos, but none as boring as you. I mean, you are a real boring Sorry, I know that you disapprove of swearing, right. So I'll sort that out. You are a boring F*** cunt.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.